Hello and welcome to PowerDrift. This is a series we call Simplified, where we take complicated automotive ideas and we break them down into something you can use. And one of the most common questions we get on PowerDrift is, can I put a larger tire on the back of my motorcycle? So let's get right into it. But before that, please do hit the subscribe button and do hit the bell notification icon so that content like this can find you easily. And if you like this video, please do like it and share it with your friends. So, should you be putting a larger tire on the back of your motorcycle? And honestly, the answer is no, you should not. And thank you so much for watching. No, it's not over. The reason why I'm saying that is because when the manufacturer designs the motorcycle, they have a role for the motorcycle in their minds. And what they want to do is create a tire setup that does that job as well as possible within the cost constraints and at as low cost as possible. But that's the slightly cynical way to look at it. What they're also trying to do is ensure that you have the most optimal experience as possible. And the word optimal is important because the bigger tire, less fuel economy, bigger tire, less acceleration, bigger tire, more weight. So you can't really keep making the tires larger. And remember, just like everything else on a motorcycle, the tire has a job to do. And the reason why they pick a certain size for a motorcycle or a scooter is because it's doing that particular job. So, what is a tire supposed to do? Now, the fundamental job of a tire obviously is to give you a lot of grip, right? You want the grip at the front so that you can brake hard. You want the grip at the front so you can turn the motorcycle as sharply as you dare. You want grip at the back so that you can drive the motorcycle forward, and obviously in a corner, the front is important, but the rear also has a job to do. And the first thing I want to tell you, and it's funny, is that 99% of the time, the motorcycle you're riding has tires that are better than you are as a rider. This was not the case in the early 2000s when I started testing. There were really poor tires out there. But today, almost any motorcycle you can name has tires that will outperform you 99% of the time. So first, if you're complaining saying, I need a bigger tire because I don't feel stable and I don't have enough grip, what you're basically saying is that your throttle control, your control over the motorcycle itself is not evolved enough for you to be able to use that tire a lot. And if that control does not evolve, putting a better tire is only going to be a stopgap measure at best. It's not the solution. The solution is for you to learn how to ride the motorcycle better. This is not an easy truth to assimilate, but it's absolutely 100% true. Put a fast guy on your motorcycle, a guy who knows what he's doing, and he will show you that that tire is actually capable of a lot. And the width of the tire has literally nothing to do with it in most cases. And just to take an example out of thin air, look at the videos of people racing step-throughs in Thailand. They race really narrow tires. The lean angles are not inconsequential. And they do it because they trust the tires, they have the skill, and the tires are very grippy. And it's true for most tires on sale today. But let's say that you ignored this advice and you say, no, I want to oversize it anyway. The first thing to consider is how much are you oversizing by? If you're oversizing more than one size up, so 100 becoming 110 section, if you're going more than that, think about the size of the rim. Because if your rim is the same size and you put an ever larger tire, it's basically pinching the tire. If it pinches the tire like this, you don't really get a larger contact patch out of it. You visually might get a slightly larger looking tire, but it doesn't do any work at all. In fact, it does a lot of detrimental stuff because a bigger tire is going to be more expensive, is going to be heavier. Heavy means your fuel economy, your performance and handling, all three will go down by some measure or the other. And remember, tires are part of the unsprung mass of the motorcycle. If you don't know what that is, stay tuned. We have a video on sprung and unsprung mass coming up on Simplified. But if you keep increasing the unsprung mass on your motorcycle, it will just keep feeling worse. One of the best places to lose weight on a motorcycle, in fact, is the unsprung mass, where you take the rim, the brakes, or the tires, and you try to lose weight from there. Oversizing tires does not do that. Let's assume that you weren't being parsimonious about the rim and you said, yes, I'm oversizing say by 3 or 4 sections. So the 100 is now becoming 130 or 140 section tire, and you're willing to invest in the rim that is right for that size. Now the question becomes, does it actually fit into your motorcycle? Because remember, motorcycle manufacturers have no incentive to make a motorcycle super flexible in this particular way. So the swing arms, the gap in the swing arm is designed, the gap between the two fork legs is also designed to take the size that they designed the motorcycle for. So if you go 3, 4, 5 sections up, you may not actually physically be able to fit this into the motorcycle without changing the swing arm. To me, messing with structural parts on the motorcycle, things like the swing arm, is just something that is a bad idea. If you have a very good mechanic who's super capable and super talented, this can be done. But most of the cases, I would simply tell you that it's just not worth the effort. The third thing that happens, and this is a very strange consequence which most people don't realize, is that when you make the tire wider, you have to lean the motorcycle more for the same corner. The simple piece of logic is, if you draw a line through the center line of the tire and you look at how far the edge of the tire is from the center line, the bigger the tire, the bigger this distance becomes. The bigger this distance is, the more you have to lean the motorcycle to get to that edge of the tire. And therefore, either you're going to have really large chicken strips and your friends will laugh at you, the lean angles will scare you, Worst case, you'll just be using a lot more effort to get through the same corner that you did on a larger tire. This is why when they build a drag race motorcycle with a 240 section rear tire, they can, because they don't intend to lean the motorcycle at all. In fact, one of the amazing things about bikes like the Ducati Diavel is that they run that 240 section on the back, but it was designed to run it from the beginning, so the chassis has been tuned to allow that tire to work. If you were to take a current normal motorcycle, let's take the RSV4, which uses a 190 or a 200 section rear tire, and put a 240 section tire on the back, that would become the world's worst RSV4 in one heartbeat. Because it would not lean, it would feel heavy, it would not go the same way, and that RSV4's engine anyway is a thirsty engine, it would drink even more fuel. So, to sum this up, if you want to oversize a tire, you might have to change the rim. After you do that, it may or may not fit into the motorcycle, so that's the physical challenge of oversizing your tire. The only pro to oversizing a tire is if you have a really powerful motorcycle and you're having trouble delivering all of that power to the ground. That's the reason why a manufacturer puts a 200 section tire on a 200 bhp motorcycle. There is literally no other reason to do it. To give you a personal example, my Tuono, on the manual, it says if you're taking the motorcycle to the racetrack and you're using a very sticky tire like the Super Corsa, you want to run a 200 section at the back. But for everything else, they recommend that you go down to a 190 section. And the reason is because the 200 section will allow you to put a lot of torque and horsepower down on the ground, which is very important at a racetrack. The reason to not upsize your tire, there are tons of reasons, but the top 5 I think on my list are: it's heavier, so it's going to make your motorcycle feel slower to go. It's heavier, so it will make your motorcycle slower to steer. You're going to spend money on it, which could have used on petrol and gone a longer distance with it rather than doing this silly thing. And I get that this is an aspirational thing, that you see these big bikes with their 190, 200 section rear tires and you say, that's what I'd like on my motorcycle. But I promise you, go large enough and your motorcycle will just not go. It will become something that you look at. And if you just wanted to look at motorcycles, that's what motorcycle museums are for. We buy motorcycles to ride them. Thank you so much for watching. This is Simplified. This is PowerDrift. If you'd like to discuss this in more detail, leave us a comment. If there's other topics you'd like us to talk about, leave us a comment. And I invite you again to hit the 4 buttons that we love you hitting, and that's subscribe, the bell notification icon, like and share. Thank you so much for watching.